This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Get real.
You all ready for this? Dun 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 dun.
No. Y'all, just stop. This is a sham. Welcome to DBL. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Not so happy, actually. We're just going to jump right into it today. It's a very difficult day all across the country after the terrible tragedy in Uvalde, Texas yesterday, where at least 19 children and 2 teachers were shot and killed. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families affected, which almost seems insulting at this point. After hundreds of mass murders, I have to say thoughts and prayers again. Maybe we could do something this time about it. And to everyone in that community, in the hours after the tragedy, some notable people spoke out. Matthew McConaughey was actually born in Uvalde and describes yesterday's acts of violence as an epidemic we can control. He posted a statement saying, whichever side of the aisle we may stand on, we all know we can do better. We must do better. Taylor Swift broke her Twitter hiatus saying, filled with rage and grief and so broken by the murders in Uvalde. And LeBron James tweeted, simply, there simply has to be change. Has to be. Praying to the heavens above to all with kids these days in schools. And a lot of people are talking about NBA coach Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors. He expressed his anger at a press conference. Let's watch.
Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
I gotta tell you, I agree with Steve Kerr. You know what I mean? I'm not feeling that great today.
Yeah,
because of my own reasons, and then put this on top of it, and I'm angry too. Yeah. I'm angry, and I don't know what has to go on for somebody to even suggest change.
Right.
We've been up here, Al, 5 years, all of us, talking about the same thing. We haven't even suggested change. No, what are we doing?
Hey, look, man. You know, and for a lot of people that might be looking at Steve Kerr and saying, maybe, you know, well, why was he so animated? He lost his father to gun violence. His father was assassinated. I've lost friends. Shout out to my boy Jermaine Mitchell because of gun violence. This is just now part of this country, and the reactions. Lindsay, it's weird because we're like at this place now where we've covered so many of these that I almost know what the show rundown is going to look like. That's how many mass murders we've covered. I would say we've covered 25, 30. Remember Thousand Oaks? Remember Vegas?
Remember Parkland?
Parkland, yeah. So, I mean, if we're not going to do anything, Linz, what do we – I mean, there's one thing to be sad, but to just be sad and just sit there, what's the next step? There's never a next step. It's just like, oh, Mitch McConnell, oh, some dude that looks like a turtle now decides that the rest of us can't send our kids to school because of this dude. Like, it seems bigger than that. Maybe I'm naive.
I think, you know, a lot of people ask why Taylor Swift, who's an entertainer, or Steve Kerr, who's a basketball coach, among many other things for both of them, have spoken up, and it's because the world's attention is sometimes on these celebrities, and people like to avoid situations and not discuss what's going on at hand. But if you stop all entertainment, like we've done in the past, and say, pay attention to this right now, that is forcing people who otherwise would just go with their beliefs and say, listen, this has nothing to do with me, it wasn't my school, it didn't affect me, and really just see this is a big problem and know that this should be a #1 issue for you. Because otherwise, the cycle, like you said, is that we discuss it, we're outraged, people go on social media, share their thoughts, and then somehow we move on and something else happens.
Yeah.
An event in entertainment happens, and then another school shooting happens, or another Buffalo shooting happens, or, you know, it's just this constant cycle that we're on repeat. And in 2012 was when Sandy Hook happened. So we're 10 years later, and we have the same officials that were calling for change then, calling for change now. It's just disgusting because we have to, at some point, at least put the people that are the best of us, kids, the innocence of us all, put them first at least. Give them a chance to live a full life.
Yeah, I think about these kids and how they spent the last 2 years trying to fight COVID, and now they got shot. And it's like their whole lives were spent surviving, just trying to survive this world. It is not a global issue. Also, may I remind you, this is a solely American problem. And we have an American stall, I agree with Jeff, in our government here because of money. Because of money. At this point, kids are being shot to be sacrificed for the right to bear arms. So at this point, please go and find out if your senator or representative has been paid from the NRA. You can go on a website, find out how much. At some point, 90% of us can't be held hostage, like Steve Kerr said, by money. So votes, action, things need to take place, or else America's dream is to dodge a bullet. That's the new dream. That's the whole goal.
Yeah, what broke me up was 2 days before school ended, and then being a parent, going to get a DNA swab to see if your kid is alive or not.
They couldn't even ID them.
I can't even.
They couldn't
You know
even
what I mean?
ID the kids because of the carnage. One classroom.
It makes me sick, and we don't do any. We're so stuck in our political parties, and it never came to my mind till I started doing this show. And it's like, if you say one, you can't have duality of thought. I say I'm an independent, which I am, but people label me. We need a Republican point of view. You're a good Republican when I'm out on the street. I'm not a Republican, man. I have duality of thought. You could have a gun. You don't need an AK-47 with mass amounts of ammunition. There's a difference there. And if you're a politician and you say one thing and you step outside your political party, you're not getting our money anymore. We're not backing you. When is someone going to step up to the table and start saying what's right? We're so stuck in our boxes, societally, politically. And if you step outside that box, you're a hypocrite. You're not allowed to think both ways. You're not allowed to think anything a Republican thinks, Tori, because you are staunch libertarian or whatever the hell it means. I don't even know what the hell that means. But we're in these boxes, and then we're judged every day by what you write, by these things. And then we're criticized by our bosses about what these people think. It's like, somebody come up with some ideas. Start being proactive. Stop being reactive to everything someone tries to do to better this country.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's better we keep saying better, but for who? This is a capitalistic country. This is a business. I know people think they live in America, and that's adorable. This is a business. And you know how you know this is a business? Because every problem that we have in this country can be solved by money. You think about like your ancestor, Jeff, in Italy, or like you watch like something like Braveheart. You think about the reason his character resonated is because when they tried to buy off William Wallace, I think his name was, they were like, we'll give you a kingdom, stop attacking us. He was like, this is deeper than money. This is my land. This is my family here. They cared about stuff. America, we don't feel that way about this country. This is a business.
90% of us do.
No,
the politicians
we do not.
Do
Tori.
not.
We do not.
I disagree with you on
this. We do
Al.
not, because every problem we have can be solved by money. The way that we can get rid of this is we demonetize the platforms in which these people meet to discuss how to get guns, how to do all this stuff. Take the platform, the Alice Joneses that made everything a conspiracy. Because let me tell you, the other cycle, the other half of this part that you forgot, Lindsay. Yes, there's the sadness cycle we're going to go through, but now here come the conspiracy theorists. Because at every school shooting, maybe this is a little fun fact for everybody, there are people that show up a couple weeks later and say that nothing happened there. There is a whole other conglomerate of people, conspiracy people, that will then go there, harass those people, like Alex Jones and his people did for 9 years, making those Sandy Hook people move 7, 8, 9 times, saying that their kid never existed and this is all a hoax. So now the second half of our capitalistic system kicks in, where we now have a whole economy based on mass school shootings. That's what it is. It's all about money. There's no emotion. This is a business, Tori. Nobody cares where they are. State lines move, district lines move. It doesn't matter.
From 1994 to 2004.
No, there was no internet. I know where you're going.
I know
I'm sorry.
that.
Excuse me, that was rude.
It's fine. I totally get where you're feeling.
I get the emotions being high. So
Totally.
I
And we're
appreciate
okay
this.
with each other. We trust each other. They had an assault weapons ban after Columbine, right? And the mass shootings went down 70% less likely during 1994 to 2004 to have a mass shooting. Why, at some point, don't we just go back to what we already figured out?
The internet wasn't what it was. You couldn't really contact somebody in 2004. There used to be, for as morbid as it sounds, there was a barrier of entry to be like the Unabomber. Homie went to Harvard. He knew how to build stuff. Like even the guy that did the first Oklahoma City, the 3% or whatever, Oath Keeper dude, he was a smart guy. You used to know how to build bombs. Now there's YouTube. Now there's the dark web. You can get this sent to your house. You don't have to be especially smart to commit these horrific acts. So now there's no barrier of entry. Every 17-year-old kid with a grievance is tooled up like they're in a civil war, and this is what we have.
Texas lowered their
so then everything's explained.
They went to 18 in 2021, and that's how this guy got his gun.
Listen, I appreciate the high emotions. I'm not myself today. This isn't a show that we usually do today, and it just. Something's got to be done, because that DNA thing really just, I couldn't even imagine being in those parents' shoes.
Yeah.
All right, coming up on DBL, we're going to switch gears. I appreciate the conversation here with some lighter stories. Please stick around.
Closed captioning provided by
Daily Blast Live is always timely, always focused, always ready, always on cue. This May, don't miss a day. DBL is all new every day.
Like keeping records.
Hi guys.
There's a whole website where
How are
they
you?
like go on and they're like, want to trade this one?
So just so you know, in 2022, more children have died than police have in the line of shooting. Again, 90% of Americans support common sense gun laws. And what that means is red flag laws. It means having a federal registry, background checks. That's just very common issue that they have.
But that's the only actual way to get rid of this.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you guys know Shannon Watts. She was a mother that started Moms That Demand Action after Sandy Hook, and she tweeted, these are not acts of nature. Like, these aren't tornadoes, these aren't hurricanes, these are things that we're doing and causing because of our inaction and our cowardice. And so I highly recommend following Shannon Watts on Twitter as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, and also just, you know, Trump is going to speak at the NRA coming up, and they just announced that no guns will be allowed at the NRA while he's there because they want, for safety, they don't want guns there. So I just find it very ironic, very meta, very silly, and it's just not a global problem, it's an American problem. And it's never going to stop if we don't do anything. Yeah, so the shooter, if you didn't know, was from the community. He was set to graduate from Uvalde School this Friday. And just so you know, he barricaded himself in a classroom. All 19 kids that were killed were in that same 4th grade classroom. Border Patrols had to bump their way in, and eventually one of them was shot. When the shooter shot at them, they took down the shooter, the people that eventually unbarricaded themselves to get in. They also said they could hear gunfire as they were trying to get into that room. So it was just an ongoing tragedy.
Came to the right place. Looking for trouble? Look right in my face. He had no idea.
That was Austin Butler, who stars as Elvis Presley in the upcoming music biopic Elvis. He did an interview with GQ saying after he finished the role, his body started shutting down. So it seems Elvis invaded his psyche because Austin immersed himself so deeply into the role that his body revolted. And just one day after filming Wrapped, he woke up in the middle of the night with excruciating pain and was rushed to the hospital. He was diagnosed with a virus similar to appendicitis.
Wow. What are you, Daniel Day-Lewis?
I mean, this...
Good for... I mean, this kid's going to be a big future. He is a really big future. But I can't understand what sickness came into him that was like...
But you don't think that you could throw yourself so much into a role that you, like, lose your mind?
I believe in psychosomatic, like, things can happen because of your mental, but appendicitis...
I don't know
it's intense, but I remember when Beyonce played Etta James, and she got into this exact shape of Etta James. She was so impacted by it that she opened a home for women that were rehabilitated drug addicts so they can learn a trade. She opened it in Brooklyn. I remember it was a big thing when I was living in New York at the time. So that's like when you get so deeply impacted by your role and you're just acting, but it becomes way more than that. Even with Heath Ledger when he played Joker, everybody knows how entrenched he was in that role, and everyone said it was the best performance of Joker of all time arguably. So it's like, I can't imagine getting into that. You know, I have a hard time just having a regular conversation. So like, imagine getting into a serious role. It's like, how do you then just turn it off? I'm not that good at just turning stuff off.
I don't know if people do, and I think that's the problem. I think the people that we cover that unfortunately like pass away through drugs and alcohol, they're the people that cannot kind of come down from that role. They stay so locked in that they can't. Yes, they stay so locked into their character. You know, there's a director, I don't know exactly, I'm pretty sure it is, but I don't want to say his name, but like they said after this in the 80s, he would direct a big film, he would just get like 5 bottles of Jack and go to a hotel room and just be in there for a couple weeks, and just, that was his detox. Detachment. So I think people just get so entrenched that they can't leave that character.
Yeah. So another portion of the trailer shows Tom Hanks, who also got appendicitis. He plays Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, where he's seemingly wearing prosthetics to help better portray his role of Elvis's manager, as well as taking on his Dutch accent.
That zoom in, I was like,
see,
whoa.
Tom Hanks is one of the best actors out there, and you don't hear stories of Tom Hanks getting a fake appendicitis.
Right, and I agree with you. The whole show, I've agreed with you. It seems fake.
It's similar to what he's got stomach. Listen, I agree. This man, Austin Butler, is going to be fantastic because I think you have to be borderline crazy
like
to be fantastic at acting.
Yeah.
That's a
because
great point.
when I got into it, people are like, "Oh, don't call that person Kelly on set. It's Jamie because that's her character." That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a famous story in Marathon Man where Dustin Hoffman was doing method and he stayed up all night, 3 nights in a row, because his character did. And he was like all out of it and crazy. And Sir Laurence Olivier, who was acting against him, just said, "Why can't you simply just act?" And there's 2 different ways, right? There's the method and there's the English method, and that is 2 different things.
I'm down with just acting.
Yeah.
The method is getting into your.
You did a good job in your movie, Jeff. I saw it. Me and my mom watched it together.
Oh, you should have saw. I got a terrible
liver
esophagus. All right, Eli. Okay, coming up on DBL, Eli Young Band tells us all about their new album, Love Talkin'.
I've never really.
Food and Drug Administration published a recall notice for Jif peanut butter products on May 20th. Its parent company, J.M. Smucker, announced some products may be contaminated with salmonella. The FDA advised customers with jars with these lot numbers to dispose of recalled products immediately and to sanitize any surfaces and utensils that came into contact with the affected products. That left some customers wondering on social media whether they could get their money back. So let's verify. Can you get a refund if you purchased recalled Jif peanut butter products? Our sources are the J.M. Smucker Company and 6 major retailers nationwide. The FDA's recall notice doesn't make any mention of a refund, but a Smucker spokesperson tells Verify customers can get a voucher for a new jar if they fill out an online form. All 6 of our retail sources said they will refund customers who return a recalled item. So, yes, you can get a refund if you purchased recalled Jif peanut butter products. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
The Office of Personnel Management released new guidance to federal agencies to help them start a more skill-based hiring approach. It focuses more on what candidates can do rather than their education degrees. It's also more inclusive because it can make it easier for people without degrees to show their talents. More companies are hiring this way. According to a March report by LinkedIn, about 40% of employers used skills data to hire people. And companies that use skills data are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. A 2020 executive order from President Trump asked the Office of Personnel Management to help agencies adjust to skills hiring. President Biden is extending that order to the end of this year so all agencies can adopt in time.
Welcome back. We're going to lighten things up here a little bit. That was Love Talking, the latest single from Eli Young Band. And before the terrible tragedy in Texas happened yesterday, we did speak with 2 members from the group, Mike Eli and John Jones. Check it out.
I was kind of having this conversation the other day about love. I feel like the word love is gone from a lot of R&B songs, but not in country. Why do you think country songs still have a lot of love in the title?
I think just it works for everybody. It's one of those things we can all relate to. And, you know, as songwriters, it's something you can like think about your first love. You can, you know, it's heartache. It's everything in between. It's the breakup song. It's the I'm in love now. I've been in love for a long time. You know, life is good. It always works.
Here for it.
Definitely. Now, this is something I love, which is not only you guys, but the Dave Matthews Band. I go to concerts every single year. I go 3 times in a row. What was it like performing with Dave Matthews Band back in your early days? Was it fabulous? Was it intimidating?
That was the first big tour we were ever on. We were just a regional band, hadn't really had much national success. And he brought us out for a string of shows, and he could not have been a nicer person, and he introduced us to the crowd. You know, ladies and gentlemen, the Eli Young Band. And then he stood there side stage for our entire set every single night, watching us, where the audience could see him. So it really just drew them in to say, these are guys that I want to bring on tour. You should give them your time. And that was like the coolest introduction into, the bigger music scene for us.
Obviously, Dave Matthews is an incredible artist, and sharing the stage with him was always a big deal. So way back then, it taught us a lot about continuing on that whole thing of being that kind of headlining artist that is good to the guys coming up that open up for you. So.
Well, Mike, does the band ever have disagreements, like when writing a song? Who has the, quote, final say?
Ooh.
We were always really good at communicating. I think the reason that we've lasted 20 years was that we listened to each other, and we put our relationship at a priority. It really has worked itself out in a way. I think the four of us can really kind of come to the same consensus pretty quickly after 20 years of being, families.
Well, speaking of love, let's get to your new album, Love Talking. John, we heard your favorite song on the album was Break Up in a Bar.
Yes.
We got to know, is this based on a true story? Please tell.
It is not, but it's a wonderful idea. The whole song, it's kind of your, I don't know, little tongue-in-cheek, a country song, straight middle of the road, kind of clever, about all the advantages of breaking up in a bar.
But when somebody breaks your heart, moving on ain't half as hard when you break up in a bar.
You're already where you're going to end up anyway. Drink, but it's kind of, the bar is everything that you want after that breakup. It's your friends who are there to bring you back up. It's someone new to meet. It's the drink to settle you down. It's all that stuff. So
I think that you followed me through my 5 years at university. This was actually the theme song to my university romance story. So thank you for that.
Love it. And Mike, do you have a favorite song on the new album?
I wrote most of them, and so my connection is pretty deep to all of these songs. Love Talking is probably one of my favorites, but I think that there's also a song on there called Tell Me It Is that is that moment. Most of these songs were written in 2020 and the beginning of 2021, and that was obviously a very vulnerable and weird time for us of moving on into whatever was happening. And so Tell Me It Is was pretty personal, and so I'd have to say, though, between those two, but Love Talking is obviously, I think, an incredible pick for the first single. So,
how have you guys grown as a band with Love Talking compared just to some of your earlier albums?
We've experienced so much of our lives, over half of our lives together. And so we have a lot of experience to draw on. In the studio this time, it was just so easy, and we had missed playing together so much over this long COVID break that it was great to get back in the studio together. Mike wrote almost 100 songs, somewhere around there. So we had a huge bucket of songs to pick from, and it was just a great feeling to be back in the studio.
I love that.
That's a good title, Bucket of Songs, for your next.
I was thinking it'd be a good song called 100 Songs.
Okay.
Well, congratulations.
It is a good idea.
It is.
All right.
Thank you.
Are trying to play me.
Both Mike and John, thank you so much for chatting with us. Be sure to get their new album, Love Talking, out on June 3rd.
So cute.
We appreciate you guys. Congrats. We'll be right back.
It's better than Bucket of Songs.
I think Bucket of Songs sounds really good.
100 songs.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by...
As gas prices remain high, Verify is hearing from you about claims to save money at the pump. Doug sent us an article about the product Ecoplus and wondered, does it work? So let's verify. Does the product Ecoplus guarantee money savings on gas? Our sources, AAA, Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy, and Ecoplus. Let's dive into some of the claims from the company. When we visited the company's website earlier this week, it claimed using the device would reduce your fuel consumption up to 55%. In Ecoplus's words, the device remaps your car's electronic control unit to optimize fuel consumption according to your driving habits. Verify reached out to the company asking for data to support its consumption reduction claims. A spokesperson got back to us saying its device actually offers a 15% reduction, and it was working to correct the website. Ecoplus says it didn't have specific data because of limited resources. Since then, Ecoplus's website has changed, and that 55% claim is gone. Still, industry experts are skeptical about devices like this.
I'll just say it this way. If your car could be designed to get that better fuel efficiency, it would have, because car manufacturers want to advertise higher fuel efficiency when they can. But a lot of these devices are just gimmicks.
AAA saying, quote, these types of devices are largely untested and claims unverified by third-party testing. DeHaan diving into his own experience working on cars to elaborate.
You basically have to hack into the engine computer to get access to it. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's kind of like hacking an iPhone now, right? They're really hard to get into.
So we can verify, no. Based on Ecoplus's current information, using the product does not guarantee money savings on gas.
Detectives learned that Nikki left her residence on June 5th. She returned early in the morning on June 6th and left again a few hours later. There were no further contacts or sightings of Nikki since that time.
Police say a Vancouver teenager missing since this summer has been found dead.
As experts warn about a possible recession, you may want to think twice before jumping ship at the office. Let's connect the dots. The Great Resignation is still in full swing. Just last month, about 4 million workers left their jobs. But the market in which job seekers are moving in is changing rapidly. As inflation soars, central banks are moving quickly to hike interest rates, which only increases the likelihood of a possible recession. Career experts warn people should be cautious about moving job roles. Many experts say companies will typically lay off new employees first, if they become necessary. But for some, the benefits of a new job still outweighs those risks. If you plan on looking for a new job, experts say to look while you're still employed in your current role. And if you plan to move industries altogether, do your research first. Look at what industries are typically hit the hardest by recessions and which ones usually thrive. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Welcome back. Today is National Senior Health and Fitness Day. That's today's Focus on Fitness presented by QB. If you're an older adult, now is the perfect time to make moves towards your health and fitness goals. Start with the health screening. This will help you identify critical areas of improvement. Next, being fit includes mental health, including brain games like chess and crossword puzzles. Keep your brain active and youthful. And a hike is a great way to get exercise. Rocky trails can be dangerous, so consider increasing your steps with a guide tour at a zoo or museum. And QB is also a great way to get some quick exercise. Try their under-desk elliptical at home. Call 1-800-556-2089 or visit QB.com to learn more. When I read that at first, I thought chess was cheese, and I was like, yeah! And I was like, oh, chess.